Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Inside Out Dad supporting incarcerated dads going home presentation. That is a partnership effort from DC Health, Devin, and myself from Mary Center. My name is Felix. I'll be one of the panelists today.
All right, and my name is Devin Anderson, a public health advisor for DC Healthy Start. And yeah, I'm very thankful for the mayor's office that we have the opportunity to discuss this topic.
Yeah. And I should also share with my name is Felix Hernandez. I work with Mary Center, and I am the advocacy and fatherhood supervisor there at the home visiting program. Thank you also to the mayor for the opportunity to present on this subject. All right, let's keep.
Well, again, this workshop will present an overview of the partnership between Mary Center Father-Child Program and the DC Healthy Start Fatherhood Program, and our work with the Inside Out Dad, which supports fathers in transition going home from prison. So we're going to just be hitting on a couple of topics today, discussing healthy masculinity. We're going to introduce you into Inside Out Dad program. Lessons learned while working with returning citizens, the importance of fatherhood in the life course perspective, and identify the need for men's health equity.
Right, thank you for that. Can you take it to the next slide? Okay, so we wanted to begin with the importance of this work. Why is this important, and why is this work urgent? And so I wanted to share with you all this quote that I think starts to scratch the surface a little bit. There's a time in a boy's life when the sweetness is pounded out of him, and tenderness and the ability to show what he feels is gone. And so this ties into a very important aspect of our work within the Inside Out Dad program, because it talks about handling and showing feelings specifically. It's in one of the sessions that we'll review later on. But what this is beginning to open up a dialogue around is how society implies that boys don't cry, or that when we do see a boy crying, some of the language that some of us might be hearing is that man up. It's either a sign of weakness, or that we punish young boys for beginning to express themselves. And so we are trying. One of the reasons why that we believe that having conversations around healthy masculinity is because of this quote that tries to capture the essence of what might happen in a young boy's life in a society that does not value emotional intelligence for men. So next slide, please.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so another important aspect of this, and another thing that makes it urgent, is a quote that Nelson Mandela shared as a person who was incarcerated himself, but we wanted to share with you all as well. And so the quote is, "It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones." And just to the side of it, you'll see National Fatherhood Initiative, Father Facts, that 92% of parents in prison are fathers, which I think is an important thing to contribute to this conversation about healthy masculinity, and also the kinds of services and supports that we can provide to men incarcerated.
Yeah, and I think that this is also an important time to really thank some of the people who really we without them it couldn't really be made possible. So the Department of Corrections, the facilitators Kevin Burrell, Jesse Sneed, they manage the participants. They do evaluations, and they come up with a plan that kind of sets them up for success. So really having them was a very important piece there to going forward with this program.
Before we go on, Devin, I do want to kind of give everybody a chance to know how we ended up in in trying to do the work of having discussions around healthy masculinity with men who were about to be released, returning citizens. So could you share with us how you ended up in doing some of this work?
Yeah. So I've been working with the population for a couple of years with a program called Project Empowerment. That's another group of people. Miss Lane, Miss Upshur, Mr. Lewis, facilitators there, Mr. Gill. For over 15 years, Project Empowerment has helped to reduce economic disparity in the district, serving thousands of individuals with multiple barriers of employment. This program is what allowed us to go into the prisons. I was working there doing weekly classes, health related classes for the Department of Health, and there was a need to really get inside the jails and really talk about certain subjects before their release. A lot of the program participants there, I would say, are 90% male, and mostly coming out of incarceration, and if not, are homeless. So there was a great need to really express fatherhood to this demographic. So along with some of the people who I named, we formed a partnership with Department of Corrections, Department of Employment Services, myself at DC Health, and the Father-Child Program at Mary Centers to work with our returning citizens.
Thanks, man. Like, I also got to say thank you for in inviting the Healthy Start team and the other at Mary Center to support you in this work, because it's how I found my way into doing having healthy masculinity conversations with men who are about to be returning citizens. And so, like, before I was a home visitor, I was a teacher. I was teaching middle school in VA, and I also I really enjoyed the process of teaching, and I've always felt like I was connected to providing services and supports to children who were looking for those kinds of like, just, getting more information on what it is to be healthy. But like, as I became aware in home visiting that there's conversations around increasing the capacity and also increasing the engagement of fathers in this work, I just felt like it was a natural like evolution of getting into supporting families. We should be including fathers, and fathers should be finding ways to engage in providing supports to their families, because it's we are an important contribution to the well-being of a child. And I felt like being able to provide that for returning citizens and trying to connect them with home visiting and all the other programs that exist to support those returning citizens in reducing recidivism, I felt like it was important. And so, like, I gotta say thank you to you. From the beginning of me coming into home visiting, you immediately knew, like, we have someone who might be interested in doing this work, and like, it was a pleasure to get together and collaborate on this front. We also, just real quick, wanted to share some statistics, some information about, like, fathers in general. And so findings from the rapidly growing science of early childhood and brain development show that a father's active participation and emotional engagement with his children leads to improved social, emotional, behavioral, and academic outcomes. Research confirms that a father's emotional engagement, not the amount of time fathers spend with children, leads to multiple positive outcomes in both girls and boys. There was more information, Devin. I don't know if you wanted to share on that one.
Oh no, we're gonna move on and put it on some of the guests we have today. We want to ask, what does the word father mean to you? And if you could just write it in the chat. That would be great. This is just a moment to kind of get interactive with you.
Yeah. We understand that the word father means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I know that for fathers themselves, like that's a role that also looks differently across the board. And so we would like to hear some input, feedback about what the word father means to all of you. We'll wait a couple just to see.
A couple of seconds.
Gotcha.
See if we get any hits.
I know that for me, the thing that I really, when it comes to the word father, the definition has grown over time, especially with figuring some of these things out that I think the InSideOut Dad program was able to provide. I think that a father is anybody who's involved in any masculine person involved in the development and care giving towards a child. And that could be a stepfather, that could be a grandparent, that could be an uncle, right? A cousin, anybody who's involved in supporting the child and caregiving to that child, I think is how I would define it. And also there's single mothers out there who have to assume this really important role of parenting that some folks might also find like borrowing to describe, my mother was a father too, like we do make room for how that is also a real answer as well. And so we're going to keep it moving. Thank you all to those who shared. We appreciate that.
Okay, so we're gonna go over our definition of fatherhood. This is a definition that is provided by National Institute of Children's Health and Quality and the National Healthy Start Association, who has been very helpful. They call them the three Kens, but for those who are involved in fatherhood, they are some of the best who do the work, and they have helped me tremendously. So I appreciate that. So we're going to start off with the first one. I'm sorry, did I?
Yeah, you skipped.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So the state of responsibility of being a father, also a term reference to describe the movement that looks at programs and efforts that focus on fathers and their impact on children's well-being. Fatherhood is the state of embracing being a father/parent. Fatherhood is a practice within family community that is rooted in a commitment to core values, practices, and principles grounded in beliefs that support the growth and nurturance throughout the life course of children. And lastly, fatherhood is a protective factor over children and family given by a man that provides shelter, protection, and a healthy, loving environment in which a child will be nurtured to grow into adulthood.
Thank you very much for reading those answers. Right before I get into that last definition, I also wanted to highlight some of the responses that we had heard for the question as well. So some of the responses for the question of what does the word father mean to you, some of you all had shared that the word means protector, provider, a family backbone, a mentor, a confidant, and an encourager, which I think are really excellent descriptions of what a father can look like, and very, very glad to have received those answers. Thank you all for sharing. We'll also keep it moving if we can. And so like, the one thing that I do, before you go to that next slide, there's a definition aspect that I really want to highlight. And so in the phrasing protective factor, I would like to mention that because it's important to know what we mean when we say a protective factor. So protective factors are characteristics associated with a lower likelihood of negative outcomes or that reduce a risk factor's impact in the life of an adult. Protective factors may be seen as positive countering events. And so this language is informed by the Adverse Childhood Experiences study that, let me define that for you all as well. The adverse childhood experiences are traumatic events occurring before age 18 that include all types of abuse and neglect, as well as parental mental illness, substance use, divorce, incarceration, and domestic violence. So when we are talking about protective factors, we're talking about those events or material resources or the involvement of family and community that help reduce those negative impacts of the adverse childhood experiences. Those traumatizing experiences, we understand that it can have a long life impact in health outcomes. And I welcome you all to look up the ACE study so that you can get more information on what this is beginning to scratch the surface on. But one of the things that I would like everyone to carry with them after that is that fatherhood is a protective factor over children and families. And I invite fathers to begin to see how this is a part of our contribution to the upbringing of a child. So yeah, thank you. Next slide.
All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the InSideOut Dad, and really what is the InSideOut Dad? Well, this program connects inmate fathers to the families, helping to improve behavior while still incarcerated and to break the cycle of recidivism by developing pro-father attitudes, knowledge, and skills along with strategies. And I don't see them on here, but I'm just going to give you. We just went over the definition of a father. But
yeah, and also, I don't mean to cut you off, Devin. I also want to give a definition for recidivism to those that might not understand the term. So recidivism is the tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend, to return to the prison system. And so the InSideOut Dad program is working in an effort to reduce or break the cycle of recidivism for individuals by promoting these pro-fathering attitudes, knowledges, and skills. So, all right, yeah, go ahead, Devin.
I thank you for that, sir. So there's 5 characteristics of the InSideOut Dad. Self-awareness, how do I care for myself? Caring for self. I'm sorry, back up. Self-awareness, how well do I know myself? Caring for self, how well do I care for myself? Fathering skills, how well do I father? Parenting skills, how well do I parent? And relationship skills, how well do I partner? So those are the 5 characteristics of the InSideOut Dad, and that is really the main focus of this curriculum. You see?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just real quick, and we understand that we hope that all healthy individuals that coexist alongside men and fathers are also working to be self-aware, caring for self. We also understand that fathering skills is very specific to masculine individuals. We also understand that parenting skills is a shared responsibility, but we also hope that the relationships that we all carry are also working to be positive, constructive aspects of all of our lives. And we welcome men in this work as well. So yeah, go ahead, Devin. My fault. I didn't mean to cut you off like that.
No problem. You know, when you flow with it, so it's okay. So I want to kind of break down some of the sessions on how we came in. There were actually 5 workshops, and we really divided these 12 sessions that you see on the right into those 5 workshops. So like 1, 2, and 3, sessions 1, 2, and 3 really gives you like an introduction into the program. It goes over those 5 characteristics that we talked about. It dives deep into like the family history, which is important because we see differences in how we're raised, and that's where really the discussion of healthy masculinity really starts, because we're talking about parents who may even discipline their children for crying and for showing emotion. So we see how when they grow up, it's hard for them to show those emotions, and a lot of times when it comes out as anger, and we also see it in health wise, because we're always told to dust yourself off. Oh, that doesn't hurt. Don't cry. Be a man. And that how that kind of develops into this not going into the doctor and things of that sort. And and session 3 talks about what it means to be a man, and those factors, and maybe some of the experiences that they went through. Sessions 4, 5, and 6, showing and handling feelings. That also goes into men's health, which we not only talk about physical health, but we talk about mental health. It gives a chance for the participants to grade themselves. We have questions 1 to 5. How do you rank your health, your physical health? And then we'll ask 1 to 5. How do you rank your mental health? So it gives them a chance to kind of grade themselves. And fathering from the inside is really a good segue into communication, which is session 7, because we want to build some communication while inside of the prison. Sometimes fathers are ashamed of the situation. Sometimes they're a little bit closed in or shut out, and they stop that communication to the family and to their children. So we want to get that back running, make sure that they're fathering from the inside, that they know what's going on outside, and that helps with the communication aspect. And also we have the father's role, children's growth, which deals with different milestones and things of that sort, protective factors. Session 10, discipline versus punishment. A lot of times we are used to punishing. We're used to punishing, and there's no discipline. There's no it's just like a effect without no cause. So we talk about discipline and what it means to discipline, and how it is different from punishment. And numbers 11 and 12, working with mom and co-parenting, just really being able to kind of stand in the mother's shoes and really know some of the things that are going on with her, that maybe once. So some of the reasons why you're getting some of those reactions or negative reactions from her. So just kind of standing in the mother's shoes and changing impact, graduating from the InSideOut dad and just going over the other 11 sessions, basically a recap, so that we can take that outside with us and have a positive impact in the community.
And in each of these sessions, we also ran through activities, we did discussions, we had open forums where we wanted to create a safe space so that people could ask the questions, and also present some of the ways that they've been disciplining, for example, that some folks have to defend because they want to defend the way that they parent and they discipline, and also other suggestions that some of their colleagues and peers were able to share in the group. It was a really great opportunity for us to begin to look at the more abstract and how it applies to the individual life and the choices that we make as men. And there's a couple of really good sessions and examples that I felt captured some of this, and I'll try and really quickly go over just one activity with you, Devin, if that's cool with you. So let's go to session 4, for example, and we're talking about showing and handling feelings, right? And one of the activities is one of the demonstrations and activities is that we understand that emotions can have can build up tension in the body, but this is how we're going to go for it. So Devin, can you talk about, let's say, give me 3 emotions that you experience that are hard to show and or hard to handle?
Okay, so I'll say sadness.
Okay.
That sadness, anger.
Okay.
And grief. I'll say grief. Sadness, anger, and grief.
All right. So we have sadness, anger, and grief, and imagine that they're written out in front of you on little note cards. Right. We have grief. You might not be able to see it because of the light, but anger and sadness. Okay. So Devin, imagine that you wake up fresh. nothing is interrupted. Your mood, you got your coffee, the day's like sunlight, like picture perfect morning, right? But you get a phone call, you get a text, and something makes you feel immediately like just sad, right? But your name is Devin Anderson. You got to keep it moving. Your day doesn't stop at sadness, right? And so you gotta, you just gotta ball it up and put it in your left hand. So now you're holding sadness in your left hand, right? But you still got to keep it moving. So you got your cup of coffee, and you're holding sadness in the left, and you're out the door. And then out of nowhere, someone cuts you off. You're driving to work, someone cuts you off, and it makes you angry. Mm-hmm. But Devin Anderson got to keep moving. He got to drive it, so he can drive like this, right? Closed fist, tense, but he can get himself to work. There's no real interruption. But let's say like right around lunchtime, you start talking to an aunt, and she drops some really heavy news on you, and immediately you start to develop some grief. And so you just felt sad in the morning, right? But you couldn't stop and deal with it. So you had to keep it moving. And now you're holding anger because somebody cut you off, and they cut off Devin Anderson in the middle of what he was doing. And so like that's upsetting. But now you had to receive this like grieving news, and what do you do with it? So now like this is weight that's in your shoe. And so you're dragging your left leg because grief is in your shoe. You're holding anger on the right hand. You're holding sadness in the left hand. And here you have an example of how emotions, if not handled or if not given the room to be felt, you won't be able to release them. Mm-hmm. You won't be able to keep yourself moving forward without that opportunity to address these emotions. And so, Devin Anderson has his techniques to take care of himself. And so he recognized that maybe he needed to take a step back here, because he could not continue to pick up emotions and not handle and not deal with them, rather. And so this is just one of those examples of how, like, in the sessions, we demonstrate that handling emotions is not only our responsibility, but it's also a need. We have to take care of ourselves. And in order to do that, we have to make room for these things. And so this is just one example of many that's present in the InSideOut Dad program. Go ahead.
I know in the same session, and we're not going to take long with this slide, but we talk about like people, and sometimes it's the people that we most love. They know our triggers. They know. So I normally, we can't bring a lot of stuff into the prison, no phones, no laptops, no anything like that. So I always get a pen, and I say, we can't let people control us like remote controls. So sometimes the example, I will go to a participant and say, mad, sad, angry, and it's really the other person who's controlling your emotion, and everything else is reactionary. We kind of go through, hey, if somebody spits on you, what you gonna do? And sometimes, a lot of times, it's reactionary. I'm gonna hit him. I'm gonna do this. But he knew that he was gonna get that reaction out of you, and that's why he did it. And at the end of the day, you're gonna be back in the same situation. So we can't let people control us like that.
And I also think that it's important for men to begin to understand what triggers them into some of this really negative behavior, really destructive behavior. We want to make sure that we also hold men accountable for if something is triggering to you, there's work that needs to be done to understand what those triggers are, and also work to be done to change behavior if it's negative and it's causing harm. And it's very real effort to invite men and to be vulnerable. Okay. The whole process of going through InSideOut Dad is also like an invitation to like practice what it is to be transparent, honest, and vulnerable. We do have some questions, and so we'll keep it moving. We'll hold questions for the end. But I like this question that we're gonna address a little later. So let's keep it moving, Devin. Thank you. And so InSideOut Dad in practice. InSideOut Dad gave us the opportunity to approach the work of discussing masculinity from the good, the bad, and the unspoken, to give participants the chance to engage in reflective conversations that support their growth and well-being as fathers and as men.
Right. So it is ideal for men who get out of prison or jail to become successful, contributing member of society, giving incarcerated fathers a vision that they have a unique and irreplaceable role in the life of their children, along with increased confidence, and changes in attitude and about their situations in their family that really help in successful reentry. I know that for the most part, we had a lot of great sessions, but the most popular session was the one that we just went over a little bit, was showing and handling feelings. And again, it gives participants that chance to have the conversation about subjects they often do not discuss. Matter of fact, one of the most important questions I think that was asked was, what is the one thing that you never grieved? Like, what is the one thing in life that you never got over, that you never addressed, that you never grieved? And the answers of some of the participants, I never really, got a chance to grieve about my mother passing, or it was so many great opportunities for them to share. And just like Felix was saying, it's just that flow that they're able to really talk about things that they don't normally talk about. So I thought that was very good.
No, I appreciate you reminding us about that, because I recognize that a large part of the influence as to why men aren't open has a lot to do with the culture of masculinity, like the patriarchy, right? I also recognize that there is work that still needs to be done to make spaces feel safe enough so that men can talk about these emotions and these feelings. And it is a responsibility of the masculine to push that forward in creating and making sure that when we see a child that's crying, we validate that. We say, it is okay to cry. Men cry, but we're still like human beings, and we all feel these emotions, and we have to make room for them. And I think it's incredible that in question, like, they see it in written, that they can respond to, that they can write their answers to in their workbooks, about what is the one thing you haven't been able to grieve. Mm-hmm. That's such a great example, Devin, and thank you for like sharing that with everyone here. Like there's work that still needs to be done when it comes to fathers, and there's work that still needs to be done when it comes to engaging men and masculine individuals. But there's amazing work that can be done in just having these conversations. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity to have Inside Out Dad be the vehicle for this.
Right. And because of time, I don't want to go too deep into it, but fatherhood.gov has some great information on fatherhood curriculums. They also have some resources about some reports from the Maryland and Ohio prisons that did Inside Out Dad, and Rutgers University that also practices the Inside Out Dad program. So fatherhood.gov has a lot of information that may be helpful.
All right, cool. Let's take it on to the next slide. And real quick, so this is a quote that one of the fathers that was involved in the cohorts inside the Department of Corrections, that later got involved with home visiting programs at Mary Center, and they testified at this year's fiscal 2021 year budget oversight hearing. And so I wanted to share a quote, and we'll have other quotes to share as well, but this was one that I felt really struck the note for this work. The support and help that help those team members provided in the jail and outside the jail is incredible. Now I'm in my own apartment with my children, and the relationship with my other two boys is picking up. This is like a quick snapshot of like how we can truly begin to support fathers inside the jail systems, outside the jail systems as well, so that they can recognize that the impact that they have in the life of their children is lifelong and can be positive and constructive. And I do believe that one of the urgent in the urgent and significant, the significance of this work is we want to show and demonstrate to fathers and men that our contributions to the well-being of our children and the nurturing and growth of our children is significant and important. You also had some other quotes you wanted to share here, Devin, real quick.
Absolutely. There's just a few comments from other participants. I really enjoyed a lot of the dialogue and issues we discussed in this group. The group helped open my mind to a lot of things as far as parenting styles and how to go forward with teaching kids new things. And I have another father who said, I learned to be a better father. I learned that you have to put in work to be a father. I think that was a good one. So yeah, it was a lot of positive. It was a lot of positive reaction from the guys, and I just want to make a point that I feel like one of the ways that this worked was because of the Project Empowerment Program, and that since I was doing weekly presentations at the Project Empowerment Program, when the guys came out of the facility, they seen me every week outside of the jail at the Project Empowerment, and just being able to talk to them, make sure that they were okay, make sure that they wasn't stressing about anything, did they need any help, did I need to refer them to Felix at Mary Center. It was just good that I could see them outside of the prison and really just be able to check up on them.
Next slide here. We couldn't talk about the great aspect of the work without also mentioning the barriers, right? What are we encountering in the lives of the participants that is counter to like a group of 3 men, which was myself, Devin, and Oliani, to come to them to talk about fathering masculinity. And so we'll hit that first question, the first barrier rather, last, but I know I'll start with the one after that. So one of the barriers that we heard often was, I don't need anybody telling me how to raise my child, right? Like everybody has a right to parent and discipline however they see it fit. There's also like a cultural elements about parenting that we have to consider. And we as supporters of families have to go in with humility, have to go in with that understanding that we are not there to tell anybody how to, how to do what they do, right? What we are hoping to bring to them is options, new ways of thinking, opportunities that they might be missing because parenting is difficult. And we want to make some of that stress less. We want to support those families in those individuals in just seeing that parenting is a unique opportunity to be the world's best teacher right there for your child. And I'm gonna share this with you, Devin, because I know you got some good points to share as well.
Yes, sir. So I'll just go through some of the rest before I go into that. What are ways men could be more involved during pregnancy? And they're asking this because they don't feel involved. They go to a doctor's office. There's hardly any representation, any magazines, any books, any pictures of men, or even pictures of men with their families. So there's a lot to be said about that, about really making men feel comfortable about that space. And if they could really feel comfortable about being in a doctor's office, then we would really see them more when it comes to some of these prenatal visits and things of that sort. They ask about barriers to like seeing their child, and how the mom could be a gatekeeper is what it's called. When they gatekeeper is when a father is trying to see his child, and the mother is not letting him for whatever reason. We went through some things. Not some things, but some conflicts when it comes to can a woman raise a man? And really, we just there's actually a activity in the curriculum where we will write father on one end, put a line, both in the middle, and on the right it'll have mother. And then we'll say, whose job is it to nurture? Whose job is it to nurture the child? And a lot of people, oh, the mother, that's the mother's child, she nurtures. And then, like, hold up, some guys are like, hold on, no, I nurture my child. We nurture too. So we see a lot of times, whatever subject it is, whatever protective factor it is, it's both parents' job. So it's not a mother can't do this, a father can't do this. It's really both. And so really breaking down that myth is really effective to kind of starting off new and saying, hey, just give them a new perspective in that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I wanted to highlight how can you teach us about fatherhood if you're not a father? I thought that was very interesting, because it was one of the first questions that was asked to us, and it kind of threw us off, because me and Felix wasn't a father at the time, so it was like we kind of fell back on our training and our experience. Both of us have, correct me if I'm wrong, like 10 or more years of experience doing this fatherhood work. But luckily, we did have a father on staff with Oleani Mendez, and he was able to kind of
bridge that gap.
To kind of bridge that gap, because at first it was like it was a great question. I think it was a great question. But later on, and one of the things I wanted to highlight is because I ended up. Me and my wife ended up, she ended up getting pregnant, and then it was then where I could finally say, boom, I'm in there, I'm in there. So if anybody asks, hey, how can you teach me if you don't got a child? I'm like, hey, well, I'm a father, and hopefully we can share stories, and we can work to kind of teach each other how to do this. And it was a beautiful thing going through that, that process of, with those guys. And just just getting feedback from them, me telling some of my stories, and just really it really was about building community and caring for each other and making sure that we're all in a position to succeed. So I thought that was great.
All right, cool. So real quick, Devin, we're gonna have to keep it moving real quick, just because we are trying to get the questions and we want to leave enough time.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah, I got it. I'm gonna do this real quick. So you see this guy in the black in the middle, and all arrows are towards these subjects: preconception, pregnancy, birth outcomes, postpartum, and parenting. So a lot of times when we think about preconception and interconception, we think about the mother, but there's been a lot of findings that fathers need to do some things before, sometimes months before pregnancy, lower their stress, stop any smoking, stop any drinking. These are very important for really to get that head start in actually preconception. So this is how we start with men's health, is making sure that your temple that is clean, that is healthy, and that we're actually planning, and we're getting back to planning to have this baby. And the same thing with interconception. After a baby, you have to wait a certain amount of months, 18 months after the next pregnancy. So how are we going to do that? We're going to have we're going to use protection? Is it going to have birth control? What's going to, I think sometimes this is the question that we give just the mother, right. that one question, but it's for both parents to really talk about and really plan the pregnancy. And so during pregnancy, the father has to be there. The father has to be present. That is the most important part, is that the role of a man during pregnancy is to support, to understand, be patient, and have sympathy to the woman carrying a child. But we see that even when it comes to things like the doulas, I've heard a couple of dads say that the doulas kind of are taking their place in the whole birthing aspect. But the doulas, I know in my experience and what I shared with my participants is they had so much information for me about the birthing process. I mean, it was just, I mean, I don't think I could have been more prepared, to what was going on, different situations. They go through every possible situation and come up with a plan. And the fathers, really have to be present for that. I think it's very important that they get that education that both, whether they're together or not, you want both the parents to have the same level, if not more, education, so that there's no lag when the child is in the father's presence. There's no lag in the services. So even there was a study. A study in 2008 that showed that actually mothers who had both the father and the doula actually had better success than with just the mother and the doula alone. So again, the father is very important. Postpartum is just like the pregnancy. The role of a man during postpartum is to support, to understand, be patient, and to provide emotional, physical, and possible financial support with the mother because she's recovering from the birthing procedure. Lack of support results in a higher percentage of postpartum depression, SIDS, and potential risk of injury. So we have to be there after that procedure. We have to be there to have a lend a helping hand, chores and everything else. And last but not least, which is going to kind of be a segue into the next slide, is parenting. Healthy parenting is one which involves both mothers and fathers taking active participation in a child's life. So we have to make sure that the father is healthy and that the father is lasting in the whole lifespan of the child. So a lot of times, we see that the mothers are living longer than the fathers, and that's because they have less risky behaviors, and they're going to those appointments and things of that sort. Was there anything else?
No, I'm gonna have you keep it moving, and then I'll jump right in. Okay. And if I can, just real quickly, just when it comes to men's health and when it comes to some of the statistics, we recognize that men are a positive contribution when involved in the life of their child, in birth outcomes, in healthy perinatal women's health. And we also recognize that men at large are dying at increased rates than their women counterparts. And so we want to highlight that a part of this work in having conversations around healthy masculinity, around recognizing the protective factors, and also recognizing that there's work in having to address some of the ACEs or the adverse childhood experiences. We want to support men in being able to take care of themselves so that they can show up in the lives of their spouses, parents, mothers of their children, in the lives of their children in healthier ways, so that they can make it to the elderly side of life, and so that they can also be contributions in that way. We want to share some of this data with you all, but we can't go into all of the specifics because we do want to leave some room for questions. And so if you could, Devin, just skip over this one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So, hopefully we were able to kind of hit on all the objectives today. We just have one last fact. Just the facts involved: dads improve their children's overall emotional and social well-being. And if you look at if you remember that slide with the life course perspective, with the preconception, the pregnancy, the birth outcomes, and everything. A lot of times, these guys who are incarcerated, they skip over all of that, and they go into parenting, and we know that they could get some drawback from that from both the mother and the child and the family members sometimes. So we kind of we kind of prepare the fathers who are incarcerated to kind of handle some of those difficulties and to learn how to discuss it and communicate it without really it breaking out into any type of fight or anything like that. But yeah, this discussing healthy masculinity. Introducing the Inside Out Dad program, lessons learned with returning citizens, and importance of fatherhood and life course perspective, and identifying the need for men's health equity. And anything else, Felix, before we take questions?
And just this is more across the board. Fathers and men, we can't do it alone. We must recognize the importance of mothers and others in our communities that support us and our children. And I invite all of you to support the work of expanding the conversation about healthy masculinity. And also, men, we welcome you into the work as well. This work is lifelong, and I believe in it. And appreciate everyone being able to make it for this session. We do have a couple questions that we wanted to get a chance to answer. So let me see. Oh, can you go to the next slide so people have our contact info? Yep. Excellent. Thank you, Devin. So the first question, Devin, what impact has probation and parole has on families? This one I am not as informed about. Do you have any awareness or understanding?
I'm sorry, could you say it one more time? I didn't hear.
What impact does probation and parole have on families?
I believe I'm just going off of how what the participants say. I think that they're that is very important that they understand, about that. I feel like it's an issue with the parole and the participants and really those services, because sometimes a participant may actually find a job, but they can't work certain hours because of the parole, or right. they have a parole hearing, or they have to meet up with the parole officer, but they got to work at the same time. So it's like sometimes they're like, oh well, let me get this money and I'll worry about me getting in trouble later, and that sometimes brings them back into prison. So I feel like that there can be some changes made when it comes to parole. And I'm not going to say that it doesn't set them up for success. I know not all are the same, and not all experiences are the same.
Right.
That we do need to focus more on really giving them the support to be successful.
Appreciate that. This next question is, have you observed any long-term impact of your programming? And what indicators do you use to capture this? There's measurable data that the Fatherhood.org, where we get the Inside Out Dad program, that really goes into demonstrating the reduction in recidivism in returning citizens. Like once some of these programs are fully implemented and with fidelity, we get to see more engaged fathers, and more engaged fathers are less likely to return to criminal behavior to make ends meet. And so, but one of the biggest indicators to me about the success of this program is when I'm in the middle of just like a grocery trip and I see one of the men that was in the cohorts just stopped me in the middle of like me getting my food, and he's like, "Hey man, look, I don't know if you remember me, but I was in that fatherhood chat sessions inside the DLC, and I just, like it was a good thing that y'all came in and spoke to us about these things. It was really important." And there's nothing, if that's not proof that this works, that the man isn't back in the prison system, is not in criminal behavior. He caught me in the middle of my day and he made the time to say like, "Hey, look, I appreciate this and I appreciate the work that y'all did." I think that speaks volumes for the success of this. And like we know that the work isn't done. We still want to go back in and make sure that these services are fully implemented and are expanded and is accessible to anybody who's interested in this work. We got a couple more questions. We got a couple left. If you have more, please send them in. You can also reach us on our contact info if you have more. There's a third question right here. It is, how can the mental health of dads and men be supported? And I think that this goes into both of us, but I'm gonna let you go ahead on that one.
Okay. How can the mental health of fathers be supported?
Yeah.
I think
dads and men.
Oh, okay. Dads and men. I think that a lot of times they just need opportunity and just having more activities and workshops and things for men. Group settings. One thing that I didn't go into is that I told you that my wife did get pregnant during me facilitating this program, but our son didn't make it. So just kind of going through that and talking to the participants and realizing that there are some issues when it comes to like mental health and when it comes to like actual therapy. I know me and my wife couldn't get therapy together from the hospital. We had to do separate sessions and I think that just more opportunities for men and boys to get that type of work and group workshops and things like that. I think that it's kind of like, if you build it, they will come.
Right.
They gotta have that. They gotta have that there for them. They gotta have that opportunity.
All right, I think we have enough time to do one more. Thank you for that. The next one would be, and I think this is a great question. What can the general community do to support dads coming home? Man, I think that there's a stigma that returning citizens have to overcome in order to re-enter society. There's always the barrier of putting an application forward and not being called back or not being considered because you have a record. And some of these things are potential contributions to why recidivism is such an issue in the first place. And I think it's what can the general community do? I think we need to listen to each other. I think we need to make room for the impact that it has, and also recognize that there's real repair that some of the men have to do in order to re-enter society. And so we're hoping that the time away from society, that in prison is in service to the repairing that they have to do, but it also means that those returning fathers have to repair and rebuild relationships with their children, have to repair and rebuild relationships with their families, and families have to be open to that. And that's a hard process. Sometimes that can be done, like as a family. Sometimes you might need therapy, like Devin suggested. But I think it is just as we want men, and just as men should be vulnerable so that they can be honest and transparent about these things, the environment has to do that. And we also recognize that this is a patriarchal system, and that there's things that we have to do in order to dismantle some of these societal pressures to tell boys not to cry. And so truly, it's a great question, and I think the work is also multifaceted. There's always someone that comes in that's going to tell us like what we need to do. And I think in specifically, if there is anything to take away from this answer, is we should be listening to returning citizens on how we bring them back into the community. We also need to make room for that repair and rebuild that needs to happen amongst that community. And so I think that's like one of the ways forward. And I don't know if we have time for one more. There's one more question out here that I think we can make time for.
Let's do it until they cut us off, I guess.
Oh, no, I think we got to wrap up. Yeah, we got to wrap up. Well, thank you all for coming. We really enjoyed talking about the process of doing inside out work with the Department of Corrections in partnership with DC Health and all those institutions that really supported us and were a backbone to the work that we did. Truly, it was a pleasure. If you have any questions, if you want to reach out to one of us, our contact info is right there. And Devin, I don't know if you have any last words, man. Go for it.
Just again, thanks to Mayor Bowser and her team for just allowing us to share our input and just the subject of fatherhood in general. I think it's great. This is the second year that I really noticed a fatherhood presence at this summit. So I really thank her for that, and we definitely appreciate it.
All right, thank you all. Take care.